Okay, hey everybody, to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have another cool update for you from the brand Artem watch straps. You might remember them as a brand out of Adelaide, Australia, and they're pretty much known as the self-proclaimed producers of the world's finest sailcloth strap. Now, in terms of these NATO style straps, I think there's another kind of parallel between them being an OEM alternative to something like, let's say, an Omega NATO style strap, as previously they were producing and still are producing some of the finest sailcloth straps as an OEM alternative, I should say an aftermarket alternative to the OEM Blancpain sailcloth strap. So with that said, yes, these are very nice as the sailcloth straps are, and they are a lot more affordable than those OEM options. Whether you were to go to Omega, yes, this is going to be a fraction of the cost, but that doesn't mean that it's cheap. Same thing with their sailcloth straps. They're definitely not trying to be the cheapest option out there. They really are fighting to be the finest option out there, and balancing the price, of course, but using the benchmark of OEM. So these actually go for $63 each, which is not very cheap, but you know, it's not outrageously priced. I've featured it more expensive straps here on the channel before, and some of you might be scratching your head. Don't worry about it. I've reviewed, I think, $300 strap. Just not worth it. These at $63, I will say they're worth every penny from that perspective in terms of the build quality, whether it be the hardware or the materials themselves. And if you have the right sized wrist for this type of length and layout in terms of the way that the keepers work, you absolutely will not be disappointed in these. But let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get these pieces in hand, and, you know, take a closer look. All right, so as you can see today, we have my Longines COSD, you know, kind of being the example that you're gonna have here. I know it probably would have been easy to put some type of diver or something, because these are very much positioned towards divers, but this watch in particular is supposed to be on a strap, so I thought, why not? So take a look at that, guys. You do also have, I think this particular one is quite unique in terms of its versatility, because it does have so many colors on there. It has a gray, which of course will match with steel, and then you're also getting accents of red and blue. And then here, you're, of course, on this Longines, you do have the heat treated blued hands, as well as that red 24-hour scale, which I think is great. And that creamy dial just warms things up, and I think plays nicely off of the beautiful gray kind of silvery tones within these stripes. But check out that hardware. So nicely signed from Artem. Not everybody's crazy about having this stuff signed because they want the brand to kind of be more about the watch, but I think it's cool that they take pride, of course, within their execution. You do also get the Artem logo here on the buckle. Check that out. Very nicely done, well milled. You can see nicely contoured. Stainless steel, highly polished, and then you are getting a sliding keeper here on the kind of forward end of the NATO, but this isn't my favorite design. Unfortunately, I prefer to have this keeper fixed and then this one actually be the one that slides. That's just my personal preference. So take that with a grain of salt if you've used these types of NATOs before and you like that. For me, with my wrist size, I just prefer it the other way around. But there are some absolute benefits to it being this way in this type of setup. So, you know, we'll definitely cover that when we get to the kind of on the wrist portion. But you can see everything tucks very nicely, very smooth. Really the main point here is for you guys to see the quality of the finishing, the ends there and edges, the holes. I mean, everything you look for is really quite nice. So also I want to showcase these other ones. While they're not on there's no watch on here. Guys can just take a look, get an idea of how these will look in real life. Check out the beautiful sheen on here, and they're very handsome. So the material is this polyamide nylon. These are 20 millimeters. The length is approximately 303 millimeters without the buckle. The thickness is in between 1.4 and 1.5 millimeters. And then of course everything is stainless steel, and you do even have the removable buckle because it is drilled on the end there. So if you're doing any type of maintenance, that does make it a little bit easier. And then you do have 2 fixed keepers here and then 1 floating here. This one really, I was torn. I almost decided to put a watch on this one. I was gonna put my baby Alpinist with its kind of gray and it's kind of patina tones. I think that ties in perfectly to this particular strap. And of course this is kind of that Spectre style NATO, which is really, really nice and quite on trend right now. And I think honestly this is just a super versatile strap because it has black, it has gray, but then it also plays with some warmer tones with that kind of beige lining there as an accent. Very nice. And then you got this bad boy. It's kind of a reddish orange stripe, that center line there. I think it looks great. It has tones, I think it's versatile in that, yeah, it could be something that looks quite military and militaristic, but also maybe even something on the motorsports side of the house, with that kind of solid center line or, space, anything like that. But the nice thing is you can actually really see the detail and just how nice the nylon textures are with less distractions. I kind of wish they'd come out with a plain color as well, maybe just like plain gray, plain black, plain blue, or dark navy. But I will say that in terms of iconography, it's smart for you to have, if you're making an alternative to the Omega strap, for them to be within similar style of of those Omega patterns. So with that said, let's actually get this on wrist now and see how it wears. Okay guys, as you can see on my 7¼ inch wrist, really nice, not overly thick. I mean, these are on the thicker side, but they are actually quite supple and pliable and soft from that perspective. So here's where we get into kind of the preference side. One of the huge benefits of this particular style of layout is now you're keeping these keepers in fixed positions, because these keepers are fixed. So you do get that nice, you're getting, and of course something that we all love in a good field watch dial, you're getting symmetry, right? So you're getting the keeper here and the keeper there, they're fixed, they can't move. And then you're also getting the buckle right underneath the wrist. And I mean, that's of course subject to the size. But then for me, this extra piece here doesn't really do me any good because the strap itself isn't very long. It's not like there's a lot of extra tongue that I can fold back into it. So I just end up tucking it, kind of rolling it inwards instead of outwards. And yeah, if it was the other way around, one of the nice things I'd be able to do is this one would be fixed, and then I could essentially just play with the slack to where I would probably have the keeper here, the sliding keeper, this one being fixed, and then everything would fold in under, but then it would also put it underneath your wrist, right? So there's trade-offs there. It's by no means like, I would even say, a solid critique in terms of a negative point. But if you have the same size wrist as me and you've been watching the channel, you can accept similar results. So for, I mean, again, very particular. I'm extremely particular when it comes to NATOs and how they fit from me. So these probably wouldn't be my first go-to. just because of my particular wrist size and my preference on where I like things. But I can absolutely see, honestly, the longer this is on my wrist, the more it kind of charms me, and I feel myself slowly coming around to this layout. For me, I think it'd be cool if they just chopped a little bit off here and then switch these to be, this one be the sliding keeper, this one fixed, and then this basically could just arrange slide so that it would just meet and it would just hang underneath there. You don't even have to fold. But that's more of a remix style NATO. This is very classic and very intentional in terms of their design. So I'm sure they considered all those things. And they weren't worried about an eccentric watch reviewer with way too many watches and way too many straps. So, of course, for me, very nitpicky from that perspective. But when you're watching this video, the main thing I really want you guys to understand is in terms of the quality, guys, in terms of, you know, hey, is this worth 60 bucks? Yeah, I mean... yeah, I think they are. I really do. Do I think everybody needs a $60 NATO? Absolutely not. There's plenty, like, don't buy this for your Casio. Like, just don't. There's no reason to. Would these be at home on a really nice Seiko? Yeah, I think so. Anything within kind of the Pro Specs line, these would look fantastic with my SBDC. And I think they'd suit it really well. They are, you know, again, thick, but to a point of quality, not just to a point of being overdone and stiff. They're thick enough to feel quite premium, but thin enough to be very, very functional, which is great. Again, the hardware is fantastic here, guys. The luster on this polishing is great. The choice of buckle shape, of course, very reminiscent of Omega. Very nice. And you can see on here on my wrist, this isn't going anywhere. You still get the benefits of a NATO to where if a spring bar fails, it's going to hang on your wrist. Look at the sheen, guys. My goodness. I mean, the tightness within that weave, the quality in terms of the uniformity in the stitching, just the patterning, everything is very, very nice. Even when you get in really close and you almost get kind of that pixelization effect where things kind of bleed together less, right? Versus down here, your eyes are, you know, focusing in different ways. It's still quite handsome, and it still honestly shouts quality. And yeah, you do get this benefit. Boom, boom. That is, it's hard to argue with that. Honestly, I guess if it was a little bit longer or a little bit shorter, it could also, you know, with this exact layout, it would be fine. Which means if your wrist, it was a little bit larger or a little bit smaller than my 7.5, 7.25, depending on, you know, where on the wrist bone I wear it, you know, whether it be on the wrist bone or a little bit higher. In this case, kind of a little bit on the wrist bone and a little bit higher. So very nice from that perspective. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. There's been so many folks coming out with really nice NATO strap options, going a certain direction, of course, you know, trying to get to the top of the heap here. Again, Artem, I feel like they're not really trying to compete with other aftermarket NATO straps. They're really just out to compete with OEM, and that is very bold and audacious, and I think it's pretty awesome as well because they really believe in their products. They stand behind them in terms of the fit, finish, build quality, the design. You know, they're not the type of brand that's gonna make a lot of tweaks here and there to just please, you know, one or two people. They really are setting out to make something that is, you know, quite universally well done, well liked, and can be well worn. So with that said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked the video, please do hit like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.